1 week ago, I got a message from an anonymous person sending me his YouTube channel. The channel consisted of 5 videos which on the surface feel pretty normal. But by having a closer look, you find out that weird things start happening to this world, as if some entity has been terrorizing the world without them even knowing. This is the unsolved mystery of Minecraft's most disturbing entity. The first video starts with James saying, "Hey guys, today we are going mining." He walks through the creepy staircase and then arrives at the mines. And immediately he starts fighting some mobs. After fighting the mobs, he decides to go even deeper to the caves. Eventually, James stumbles upon some coal and decides to mine it. After mining the coal, he decides to go back up, but he keeps looking back as if something is behind him. He puts his stuff back and goes back outside to see a spruce tree and says, "Spruce tree, let's get that wood type as well," and climbs the mountain to get the wood. After chopping down the tree and crafting into wooden planks, he sees this. We can clearly see bedrock on the surface. Then James decides to go check it out. There are random holes and bedrock everywhere, and the player decides to go in the hole. And he finds himself in a creepy mine that is not dug by him. He decides to go check it out what's on the other side, and there is nothing. And then we get this. The player is terrified and bridges up to the surface and runs away and locks himself in the house. And the video ends. Who did that? We can clearly see that the player didn't do it, and there is no other player as we cannot see a name tag anywhere. But we can't make any decisions without watching the other video. Video number 2 starts with the player breaking all his chests. He breaks his bed and decides to run far away to build his new base. Eventually, he finds a good place and decides to build his new base. After he has finished his base, the video cuts and we see another player. This is its_fauf_x. Remember that name. He is James' friend and briefs him about what happened yesterday. Yesterday I saw bedrock, I saw tunnels and heard mining. Were you trolling? We agreed not to use creative mode. And then his friend replies with, "No, I didn't do it. I would never do something like that." Then James decides to finish this conversation and have fun with him. They explore in the woods and it turns night. After some time, his friend replies with, "I need to go." Then logs off the server and James decides to go back to his base. But the next day, things become very weird. Then James decides to mine some wood to finish off his base. After he has done placing the blocks, he goes back to his base and we see this. A huge crater filled with bedrock inside his home. The player is shocked and decides to go down. After reaching the end, the player sees the same tunnel we saw earlier, as if the entity followed him here and started making tunnels. The player starts mining blocks around it, desperately trying to find out who did it, but sees no signs of the entity. Then he hears this. The player starts panicking, terrified of what he heard, makes it up to the surface and runs away. But then we see something in the house. Did you catch it? Let me replay it. Right there, in front of the house, we see a player or some kind of entity. But that entity kinda looks like his friend if you compared the skins, but that should be impossible. His friend logged out 3 minutes ago. So who did it? Well, we can only hope that we get the answer next episode. Next episode starts with James asking him that why did he do it again. His friend replied with, "I didn't do it," all cap. Then tells him it happened again and only me and you can play in this server. To which he replies with, "I told you before, I didn't do it. You're going crazy." The player feels sad and starts mining stone to forget what just happened. He makes a pickaxe, then they explore. But as things are getting better for him, James sees the bedrock again. Total shocked and terrified of what happened, he slowly walks up to the bedrock and suddenly his friend comes along and he tells him that this is the thing he saw earlier. But this raises 2 questions. If his friend didn't do it, then who else is in this world? Is it the entity or is the friend trolling? Then James and his friend goes down to check what's down there, but we see the same tunnel we saw earlier. Then they both decides to go back up, but things get very weird when they reach the surface. When they reach the top, it's daytime. James asks him, "What do we do now?" But his friend acts very weird. He ignores the message and stands completely still for the next 10 seconds. Then suddenly a creeper walks up and the player hits the creeper and then this happens. The player takes no damage at all and stands pretty still. Then James asks him, "How did you survive?" To which he replies with nothing and stands still. He just stares at him. The player starts feeling uncomfortable and starts to back up and decides to run away. Pretty weird, I must say. After some time, James asks him again, "How did you survive?" To which then he replies with, I don't know, lucky lol. It almost feels like he got possessed by something and now he came back. Then his friend proceeds to walk around normally and talk to him. But after watching closely, one thing caught my eye. If we compare both the clips when he started acting weird and the clip where he came back, we can see that their usernames are different. This means that James was not talking to his friend, he was talking to someone else. The next video starts with James showing off his base and then immediately cuts to the exact same place where he and his friend found the creepy bedrock. The player decides to go down and then he arrives to the tunnel that has been magically restored by someone. But then we get this clip. I'm gonna play it out. What just happened? James sees his friend and suddenly he starts running, sprinting to hunt him down. But this time it's the other entity, which seems immortal because he doesn't take any damage. Then things get even creepier when the player respawns. Somehow, instead of spawning at his house, he spawns in this random platform which is filled with weird signs, bedrock, and signs say absolute nonsense. Then the player walks to a creepy sign that says join us. The player had had his enough. Then he decided to go to the edge and walk off, and the video ends. I was truly stuck and didn't understand a single thing. I was about to end this project until I saw the description of the video. The description had a link which led to an unlisted video of James and his friend. James says, hello guys, today we are playing on a brand new Minecraft server. This is the first world James and his friend started. The clips we saw earlier appear to be on a different Minecraft server. This means that this is the first world James and his friend started. Then the video cuts, then James says something rather unusual. Okay, hello guys, today it's found a version of Minecraft that is supposed to release next year. Somehow it's got early access, so let's try it out. Then they both proceed to check out the new world generation. Then James and his friends see the bedrock. James was truly shocked as this was the first time he ever saw the bedrock. Then they both proceed to check there out, and what you know, it's the exact same tunnel we saw earlier. As James was going up, he heard the same noise and started panicking and started bridging up. As he arrives to the top, we can clearly see his friend was near the area. So James thought his friend was doing all this. You scared me. I thought I heard someone else placing blocks. But as we can see, that's not his friend. That's the entity. The entity doesn't pick up the sign and acts very suspicious. The player gets scared and then he runs away. But then he gets struck by lightning. James tries to run, but the entity keeps following him. And as he was towering, he gets struck by lightning and the video cuts. The player seemed to have died, and when he came back he saw a sign that says, I was gone, back now. This was clearly written by his friend, not the entity. And after all this, the last video of this channel ends. The only logical explanation we have is that James' friend, its found a version of Minecraft that had some sort of virus which created a corrupted entity same as his friend. On the hacker's control, it possesses his friend and replaces it with itself. That's why the username of his friend, its_fout, is replaced by its_faut. When you search faut in Google, it means mistake.